Afternoon and welcome to IBA News this Sunday, the 20th of November. I'm Elon Aslan-Levy and we're live from Jerusalem. Prime Minister Netanyahu has defended the decision to purchase 3 German submarines, which is now under intense scrutiny, owing to the role of his personal attorney, David Shimron, in representing the company that is selling Israel the vessels. IBA's political reporter Kalev Ben-David has the story. Kalev.
Thanks, Elon. The security of Israel requires the acquisition of submarines, which are strategic weapons that ensure the future and the very existence of the state. That was Prime Minister Netanyahu's message at the start of today's cabinet session. He added that increasing the security and strength of Israel is the only consideration that guided me in acquiring the submarines. Netanyahu's remarks came in response to growing questions about the role played by David Shimron, his personal attorney and top advisor, who also represents Mickey Ganor, the Israeli agent for Tyson Krupp Marine Systems, the maker of the submarines. Yesh Atid leader Yair Lapid, who served as finance minister when the $1.5 billion deal was approved by the cabinet, said it was unacceptable that ministers were unaware at that time that a close associate of the prime minister's had conflicting interests when the purchase was arranged. And Lapid called for a criminal investigation into the deal. Former Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon said he opposed the purchase of the submarines as a non-essential security expense, and he also called for an official inquiry. National Security Council head Yaakov Nagel said Saturday that all proper procedures were followed in buying the submarines, and all relevant security establishment officials were kept informed of the details. Environmental Protection Minister Zev Elkin, a member of the Security Cabinet, said today that Shimron was not involved in any discussions on the submarine purchase. But Zionist Union Knesset member Mickey Rosenthal said he will file a complaint with the Israel Bar Association's Ethics Committee against Shimron for having a conflict of interest in connection with the purchase. And the questions swirling around it are not likely to go away soon, despite the Prime Minister's comments today. Alon?
Kalev, how serious are the possible ramifications of these new suspicions of corruption?
Well, we don't know about the legal ramifications yet. It's way too soon for that. Right now, on the political level, I don't think it's hurting the Prime Minister. He's gotten support from other members of the government, including Education Minister Naftali Bennett, who's been one of his severest critics on security policy, so he is certainly safe within the coalition. You'd expect the opposition to try to I would say exploit or raise serious questions. There are serious questions here about this issue. I would say at most it would help the sort of narrative or scenario of corruption in the government that especially Yesh Atid leader Yair Lapid has been making as part of his, certainly in coming up maybe to a next election, that will be a campaign issue. But at this stage, it's not a political problem. Whether it will be a legal problem, that remains to be seen.
Kalev Ben-David, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Over 60 people were lightly injured this morning in a traffic accident between 2 buses and a number of vehicles along Route 44 near the Holon intersection. A 28-year-old woman was moderately wounded and paramedics treated the injured on the scene before transferring them to nearby hospitals. According to an initial investigation, the driver of the crowded bus on Route 174 lost control of the wheel, crashed into another bus and hit several other vehicles before coming to a stop on the other side of the road. The accident provoked major congestion and traffic jams in the area, with surrounding roads, including the Ayalon Highway near Holon, shut down for nearly 2 hours. Police have launched an investigation and suspect a technical fault in the bus. Disruptions on El Al flights continued today as the struggle between management and pilots escalates. The airline cancelled this morning's flight to Berlin, as well as flight 007 to New York. The carrier also announced that its flight to London will depart on a leased plane. Last night, 4 flights were cancelled, delayed or transferred to alternate airlines. Over the weekend, El Al issued an apology to its passengers, blaming the pilots' sanctions for the situation, while the head of the pilots' union, Nir Tzuk, criticised management, accusing its leaders of making decisions that were harmful to El Al's employees. The pilots, who are demanding an increase in salaries and maintaining certain labour conditions, claimed El Al was intentionally causing the disorder in order to turn public sentiment against them, portraying them as overpaid and greedy. Dozens of residents of the illegal outpost of Amona demonstrated outside the home of the finance minister, Moshe Kahlon, in Haifa last night. Protesters called on the finance minister to support the regulation bill, which may save the outpost from being demolished by retroactively legalizing construction on private Palestinian land. Families were joined by dozens of supporters, reminding Kahlon of his earlier support for the bill. Protesters charged the proposal does not hurt the Supreme Court, claiming that previous court rulings regarding illegal construction in the West Bank provide a legal precedent for Amona to remain in place, a claim rejected by the High Court. Returning now to German submarine gate, we're joined in the studio by attorney Michael Parton of the Movement for Quality Government. Michael, welcome to the studio.
It's always a pleasure.
Is there a basis for a criminal investigation in the latest controversy over the submarine purchase?
Well, first of all, there is a basis for an investigation, a thorough investigation. The appearance of impropriety in this case is quite serious because of the serious and important nature of the submarine purchases. So that's at the very least, we would call for a thorough investigation.
By the Attorney General?
By the Attorney General, of course, yes. It shouldn't have come to this. The Movement for Quality Government has, for some time now, been calling for a tightening of the rules surrounding conflict of interest and the employment of outside advisors.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Who was responsible and when for reporting on a possible conflict of interest here? The Prime Minister, his attorney, both of them together?
Well, there are a lot of unknowns, but it would appear that under the terms of the conflict of interest agreement that the attorney, Advocate Shomron, had signed, he was the one responsible for reporting any potential conflict of interest. So that left a large gray area, and in this case, obviously, he didn't report it. Maybe he didn't feel there was a conflict of interest, but that's part of the problem. I mean, when you have a double interest, a compounded interest, you don't always aware that it's conflicted because you can profit from both sides of the deal.
And so does this conflict of interest raise grounds for a possible criminal investigation, or we're not talking about that just yet?
Well, I think it is a bit premature. However, the appearance and the serious nature of the charges would require a thorough investigation, even if it turns out, or especially if it turns out that there is no fire to this smoke. I think the public would be well served for a full understanding of the facts, which, from what's coming out now, appear to be quite murky.
How plausible is the Prime Minister's case that he was unaware that the attorney who was driving the deal for the purchase of the submarines was his own personal attorney?
Well, you know, if we have to rate the plausibility on the plausibility scale, I would say there is just as common sense. If the attorney was not responsible for notifying of a conflict, and if he could, however, enhance himself without reporting the conflict, so he may have felt no reason to inform the government.
And the Prime Minister would have been unaware that,
and the Prime Minister
as
may
the
have
purchaser, he was operating
unaware
opposite,
of a conflict. As the Prime Minister says, these issues, there tend to be a lot of chefs in this pot, in this cholent, and quite a few bodies, including defense bodies and the National Security Council, have reviewed the proposals. And so the Prime Minister has a plausible claim in saying that, you know, it went through the normal channels, and we felt, and I felt this was a matter of national security. So it's plausible. That's why we're not yet saying that there's
plausible, but
there are grounds for criminal charges, but it certainly should be investigated.
Michael Barton from the Movement for Quality Government, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Student activists from Meretz decorated the entrance to the Jerusalem Chief Rabbi's office last night with rainbow flags, also drawing the flag in chalk on the pavement. The move came in protest at Rabbi Shlomo Amar's comments in an interview in Yisrael Hayom on Friday, describing homosexuality as a cult of abominations and suggesting that anyone can overcome it just like any other lust. The former Sephardi chief rabbi added he declined to attend a memorial service for Shira Banki, murdered at the 2015 Gay Pride Parade in Jerusalem, because the late teenager's family declined to read aloud his condemnation of homosexuality. Rabbi Amar further blasted rabbis for trying to show understanding or tolerance for the LGBTQ community, stressing that there is a severe prohibition against homosexuality and no allowance for it. The rabbi's remarks earned him a number of formal complaints lodged with the Israel police for incitement to bigotry. Turning abroad, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has begun making appointments to fill key roles in his administration, and as Kalev Ben-David reports, some of his choices are proving unsurprisingly controversial.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump promised voters his government would prove a radical break from the Obama administration, and his early appointments for the top positions of his presidency, all of them hardline conservatives, prove he is sticking to his word. Tapped as Attorney General is early Trump supporter, Republican Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama, a pick that has alarmed moderates and liberals who note that Sessions was once denied a federal judgeship for allegedly using racist language. The next director of the Central Intelligence Agency will be Congressman Mike Pompeo, a fierce critic of the Obama administration's nuclear deal with Iran. Trump's national security advisor will be Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, who has pushed for a more aggressive policy against radical Islamic terrorism. The president-elect expressed satisfaction over how his executive team is shaping up.
Really efficiently, very good, tremendous talent. We're seeing tremendous talent. People that, as I say, we will make America great again. These are really great people. These are really, really talented people.
One surprising name has emerged for next Secretary of State, Mitt Romney, who harshly criticized Trump during the campaign, but met with the president-elect on Saturday in the clubhouse of Trump's New Jersey golf course.
A far-reaching conversation with regards to the various theaters in the world where there are interests of the United States of real significance. We discussed those areas and exchanged our views on those topics. Very thorough and in-depth discussion in the time we had, and appreciate the chance to speak with the president-elect and look forward to the coming administration and the things.
The choice of Romney to head the State Department would improve Trump's ties to mainstream Republicans and might reassure some U.S. allies concerned over his other national security appointments. But one thing the president-elect has proven is that he is as unpredictable in office as he was on the campaign trail. This is Kalev Ben-David for IBA News.
An American Jewish journalist who helped rescue 1,000 Holocaust refugees to the United States has died at the age of 105. Ruth Gruber was appointed by wartime Interior Secretary Harold Ickes to hold the hand of the survivors of the concentration camps as she sailed with them from Italy to New York through waters patrolled by German submarines in 1944. As a photographer for the New York Herald Tribune, she documented the arrival to Mandatory Palestine and rejection of the Exodus ship in 1947, with 4,000 Holocaust survivors on board. She was later the only foreign correspondent to observe Operation Moses, which airlifted Ethiopian Jews to Israel. Until her death on Thursday in her Manhattan home, Gruber maintained that the U.S. could have saved many more refugees. In Cyprus, some 100 Israelis born on the Mediterranean islands 70 years ago revisited the site of the camps where the British had interned their parents for attempting illegal immigration to Mandatory Palestine. IBA's Aria O'Sullivan has the story.
They waited 70 years to close the circle and tell their story. The children of the illegal Jewish immigrants who were interned by the British in Cyprus and born in the camps. They returned to Cyprus where, for them, it all began. Immediately after the Second World War ended, tens of thousands of Jews, Holocaust survivors, tried to immigrate to British-ruled Palestine. The British Navy intercepted many of them and interned some 52,000 people in camps between 1946 and 1949. Some 2,200 babies were born in the camps. Last week, about 100 of them returned for an emotional visit. The visit was organized by the Israel-Cyprus Friendship Association. Their story is, in a way, the story of Israel itself. A special memorial service was held at a Cypriot Army's base near Larnaca.
Our visit here in Cyprus is very meaningful for us. Aside from the fact that we are returning to our roots, to the place where we were born, where we grew up, and where we spent part of our lives, we are connecting to the very special life story of our parents.
It brought top leaders who spoke of the thriving relations between Israel and Cyprus.
Only last week, we witnessed the Israeli Air Force flying over Cypriot skies, training together with the Cypriot National Guard. The exercise is now an established expression of the strategic relationship of trust that Israel and Cyprus have developed.
The Israelis didn't forget the many Cypriots who aided their parents while in the camps. In one of the villages in the back garden, they found a shack, one of the remnants of the detention camps.
This was one of the detention camps of the Jews fleeing back to Israel, and this is one of the barracks left at that time.
It was here that they were crowded in, suffering through the winter rains, as they waited finally to reach the Promised Land. Just before leaving, they held a farewell ceremony at a memorial for the Cypriots who helped the Holocaust survivors.
My history is the history of all the Israelis who are with us today. We look for peace, and we want Israel to be strong. I am a member of the Association for Promoting the Relations between Cyprus and Israel, and I'm sure that we are at the beginning of a very good and close social, cultural, and economic relations with Cyprus. Thank you.
Engraved on the memorial are the words of one of the children born here. The side of my heart is Israeli, but the other half is Cypriot. Ariel O'Sullivan for IBA News.
A 3.6 magnitude earthquake hit Lebanon last night and was felt in northern Israel. No injuries or damage were reported. The quake struck at 1:37 a.m. with an epicenter 12 miles from the Israeli border, roughly halfway towards the coastal city of Tyre. It was felt in the northern towns of Kiryat Shmona and Sfat. Geologists warn that Israel is long overdue a major earthquake owing to its location along the Jordan Rift Valley. The last major earthquake of 6.2 magnitude hit Israel in 1927. Israeli frequent flyers and business travellers will soon be able to skip queues at British airports as Britain expands its registered traveller service. For a fee of £70 a year and after advanced security checks, Israeli registered travellers will be exempt from filling in landing cards and will be able to use the e-passport gate or the UK-EU passport lane. Israel joins 15 other countries on the list, and its citizens are mentioned as among the biggest spenders in the UK. Applications open tomorrow. In sports, Israel's national women's basketball team beat Romania 62-51 in the preliminaries of the European Championship, advancing one step closer to the championships in the Czech Republic next year. Israel is ranked second in its group with 3 wins and 2 losses. Another win in Bosnia this Wednesday would secure the team's participation in the tournament. In a short time from now, the 2016 Junior Eurovision Song Contest will kick off in Malta. Following a 4-year hiatus, Israel will take a shot at scoring 12 points with its duo Shir and Tim performing their song Follow My Heart. 13-year-old stars Shira Freeman and Timothy Sanikov are known to the local music scene after participating in several singing contests and television talent shows. A total of 17 countries are taking part in the 14th annual Junior Eurovision, with representatives ranging from 10 to 17 years of age. The event will be broadcast live on Israel Television's Channel 1 at 5:30 p.m. We wish them the best of luck. But just in case Israel fails to secure European titles in underage singing or women's basketball, here are 5 good news stories to start off the week. Israeli researcher Dr. Gilad Evroni wins Science magazine's Epindorphin Science Prize for work on brain cell mutations. Evroni received the $25,000 prize for a series of studies on genetic mutations that can lead to epilepsy, autism, and schizophrenia. Israeli startup To Breathe Technologies wins the Consumer Electronics Show Innovation Award in the fitness, sports and biotech product category. The device and app helps induce sleep by combining therapeutic breathing with cloud technology. IDF field hospitals are the best in the world. The United Nations World Health Organization recognized the Army's field hospital, frequently dispatched abroad to natural disaster sites, as the world's #1. An Israeli-designed drone-based sensor capable of remotely detecting explosives, hazardous material and drugs was unveiled at the Homeland Security Expo in Tel Aviv. And finally, Israel gets an all-around A+ rating by Fitch, which has upgraded the country's long-term foreign and local currency rating from an A. The upgrade reflects the strengthening of Israel's external balance sheet and now means Israel has the A+ grade from all three ratings agencies, Fitch, Moody's and S&P. In weather, a cloudy week ahead. Tomorrow will be unseasonably warm and dry, mainly along the coastal plain, with strong easterly winds in the northern mountains. Expect temperatures to cool over the following days, however, with isolated showers. In finance, currency markets are the same, remaining closed for the weekend. And that's all for today. We'll be back again tomorrow with all the latest. Until then, it's a good evening and Shavua Tov, live from Jerusalem.